Yes, fantastic.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jeff Gordon. I'm a professor of educational informatics at the Vanderbilt University School of Nursing. I've been there since about the year 2000. Prior to that, I spent 27 years as a professor of education at the University of Cincinnati. I've been a member of the Electoral Advisory Board since its inception in 1999, and I teach a number of courses in e-learning design and database applications, many of which are in Lectora. We built the product, and to some extent it does take a little bit of a village, but I do want to point out that what I actually used a lot of these people for were very, very specific tasks. Our project is somewhat complex in terms of the artifacts that are in it, and I needed some additional assistance. My ability in Adobe Premiere and Adobe Photoshop is okay, but it's not fabulous. And so I asked for help when I needed it, and I'm lucky enough to have a team behind me who can do that. Greg Tipton over here was able to provide me with a lot of help in Premiere, and Dina and Carolyn provided me with a great deal of help cleaning up a number of the images that I wanted to show in my particular application. What is the e-learning challenge? Well, the e-learning challenge for us was how to teach clinicians how to use ultrasound. Ultrasound is now regarded as a stethoscope of the 21st century. We need to train clinicians how to set up the device, use the probes properly, interpret the output, explain the output, and make sense out of everything. Currently in the United States, we have 18 million healthcare providers, most of whom do not know how to use an ultrasound machine. In addition to that, we're adding thousands upon thousands of healthcare providers every year through medical schools, nursing schools, and other types of educational institutions. And those individuals need to be trained in this as well. What we learned is that face-to-face training is just not scalable. Typically, it's done around the bedside, which is what you will see here. And you could position at most 5 or 6 people around this bedside. Well, if you're training 5 or 6 people one at a time, you're not going to get to 18 million very quickly. So we need to come up with a way of increasing the scalability and the standardization of that training. Students have a difficult time when they're positioned around the bed seeing things, just probe positioning. They have difficulty seeing where the clinician's hands are and how she's holding the probe and where she's touching the body on with the probe. They have difficulty seeing the screen. The ultrasound screen, which is right here, is difficult to see if you're back here. You're squinting at a very tiny screen. And those are problems with just being around the bedside. In addition to that, clinicians have jobs making it difficult to get away for their training. And ultrasound machines are very expensive. They're on average about $80,000 to $100,000 a piece. We can't afford enough of them to devote most of those to training. And when those machines are taken out of service for training, they're not generating revenue for the healthcare center that they belong to. But probably the largest problem that students have is situational awareness, seeing what is on the ultrasound and making sense of it, knowing what it is that they're looking at. So we had to come up with an immersive learning strategy. Now, we looked initially at doing this with flat e-learning because it would be scalable if we did it that way. The big problem we had with flat e-learning was we are showing multiple windows at the same time, and having people switch from window to window to window, as you'll see in a minute, is actually cumbersome to do. We wanted everything all in one place, large enough so that people can see it and just move their head around so that they would be able to see it. We decided that the instructor was doing a very adequate job teaching, and so we wanted to maintain the techniques that she was using actually to get that across. We wanted to create a PowerPoint bulleted list to highlight what she was saying. We wanted to create a virtual screen at the foot of the bed so that you can easily see the ultrasound output, and it travels along with what she is talking about. We wanted to create a virtual screen top down on the patient so that you can see exactly where hand positioning is taking place. We also use that screen for other things you'll see in a minute. We wanted to be able to place anatomical artifacts over the top-down view so that people could have situational awareness as to what they were looking at. We wanted to allow to place an ultrasound image actually directly over the patient. We wanted to eliminate the need for multiple windows by putting everything in a single sphere and allow people just to turn their head to view what it is that they would want to look at, just like they would do in real life when multiple things are happening around them. We wanted to create stop points to allow people to stop and rewind. Big point here is the goal is not to completely replace hands-on experience. It cannot. You can't replace the tactile feel of the pressure that you're putting on the body in order to get the image or move things around. So we're not doing that. We are doing, however, is making the training more efficient, and that then reduces the need for them messing about with the equipment when they're actually going through their hands-on experience, and makes their hands-on experience much more valuable. Let's go ahead and show you. I'm going to show you a video of what the application looks like. Rather than the actual application itself, we were having networking issues around our server room this morning, and I don't want to take the chance of that breaking. So we'll go right to the video. And what the student will see when they come in is this menu right here. And we've divided up into two components. It breaks right here. Everything up here is instruction on how to use the ultrasound device. Everything below are the clinical applications. We're doing a FAST exam, which is composed of 4 quadrants, right, left, subxiphoid, bladder, and pelvis. And then we're adding a 5th component, which is the EFAST. And so what we'll do here is we will look at the right upper quadrant. And what you would do is you would either eye point or click this letter right here, and it would continue. And so I'm going to go ahead and let her, actually, you're not going to be able to hear her speak, but she is actually talking about what she is doing with this. And we have created some things here. We've got the top view over there, and we've got the view over here that we've added to the environment. You can see we've added the bullet points as she was talking about them. She's talking about the kidney, the liver, the diaphragm, lungs, the inferior pole of the liver, and lastly, the inferior pole of the right kidney. And at various different points, what we can do is we can actually stop the presentation. It automatically stops. And what you need to do is place where you position the probe. So you can decide where you would do it. And when you find the position and roll over it, it does it right there. And I'm going to let this run for a minute as she's talking. She's going to place the probe right there. And right away, you can see the advantage of this type of technology over even a face-to-face environment, because you're going to be able to see exactly where the exactly where it is that she's placing the probe. So she's placing the probe right there. You would not be able to see that if you're looking just over here. The body would be eclipsing where her hands are, but you can see it right there. Now let me move along a little bit here. And so I'm going to, she's going to actually go ahead here and do this. Let me advance it a little bit. And you can actually see what's happening over here. Let me go back to that just a bit here. I'll pause it right here. This is the output. Now, if I told you, for example, I asked you what these components are, even a practice clinician could have trouble with it. What is this right here? What is this here? What is this here? Well, you're going to see what it is in just a minute. And what we do, we're actually able to overlay various different anatomical artifacts onto the top view. So we'll add the lungs and diaphragm, add the liver, and now in the right kidney. And now we'll go ahead and add what's called flashlight view, which is the actual image that you are going to be looking at. This is what we're going to be looking at. And now we'll actually lay the ultrasound directly over it. And now this is that same image you saw before. You can now see that this is the liver. You can now see that this is the lungs. This becomes the diaphragm up here. This is the spine over here. And the student really now has situational awareness of where everything is. We go through all of the various different components this way. And at the end of this, the student has a very good understanding of how to do a standard FAST exam, an eFAST augmentation, and what it is that they're looking at when they're actually seeing the output. And that's where we are right now with this particular project.
Unmute myself. Jeff, okay, Jeff, awesome. This is Christy. Thank you so much, by the way. Before we bounce over to the next speaker, we had a great question here. They want to know how many cameras were used to get those shots.
Excellent question. We actually used 2 cameras, 1 camera to get the sphere, and then this top-down view here was actually done from a beeline camera mounted in the ceiling. We were able to get the video and actually the audio on that. The audio was better from that of the clinician than it was out of the spherical camera. And then in terms of the output of the ultrasound, we actually, there's an HDMI output out the back of the ultrasound, and we collected that on DVR, and then we had to merge them all together in Adobe Premiere and make sure that they fit exactly.
Awesome, cool, well, great. Well, we'll go through some more questions because I know I'm getting a lot of positive feedback about your case study, Jeff, but I figured let's dive into what Maria has, and we'll go through some more questions.
Cool, thanks so much. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
I can, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome, okay, great. So a little bit about me. I am one of the team leads and senior instructional designers here at Jefferson in Philadelphia. Also a co-founder of the Greater Philadelphia Instructional Design Meetup. So if you are local, would certainly love to meet you, connect with you, and be happy to share some of the work that we've done here. And I just want to quickly acknowledge the project team. So the project that I'm going to walk you through today is actually related to an uncomfortable topic. So I want to especially acknowledge our subject matter expert, Dr. Marianne Ritchie-Gordon. She is one of our leading GI docs here at Jefferson, and my colleague, Frederick Kruger-Ross, who is also one of the instructional designers on this project. So a little bit about the challenge. How many people woke up today saying, this is a great day for a colonoscopy? I would love to get scoped. Probably not very many, people out there. So the challenge here was, how do we take in an uncomfortable topic for many and make it more palatable, so to speak? So how do we take the discomfort out of a subject like colon cancer screening and encourage patients who might be at risk or who might not be aware of their risk level to go and get screened? So some of our learning objectives for this project were, one, we wanted to raise awareness around this issue. This project was associated with the 80% by 2018 campaign to raise awareness around colon cancer. So we wanted our learners to, kind of choose their own adventure, as you see in the top screen here. We do that by the assess your risk section of the module, which we'll take a look at shortly. But we also wanted to explain why colonoscopies are critical. Many people aren't aware, but according to the American Cancer Society, colorectal cancer is the 3rd most common cancer diagnosed in both men and women in the U.S. And it's also among the most preventable cancers. And really the gold standard is colonoscopies in particular, because they're able to diagnose the problem as well as remove it, so they're therapeutic as well. So we also wanted to summarize how a patient could prepare for the procedure and sort of mentally rehearse what to expect beyond a set of instructions that's given to them at the time of appointment. And lastly, we just wanted to include the option to schedule an appointment on their own. So let's take a quick look at the module. And actually, before I do that, just a couple more bonuses to this challenge. When we encountered, as we were devising the course, So this was part of a year-long project, myself and another designer along with our SME. One bonus is we had to integrate it with another authoring tool. And we really didn't have the budget or resources to go out and buy. We had to be very selective with the tools that we can use. So initially, the course, if you're a storyline user, you might recognize this as a storyline build. So that was one technical challenge. The second technical challenge, of course, was we were not sure how we would go about creating a web VR experience itself. So luckily, Cenario took a lot of that guesswork for us and allowed us to focus on just building the experience rather than, the details of coding and having to do something more customizable and possibly non-sustainable. So let's take a look at the course. So, typical opening. I'm going to just jump ahead here.
And Maria, this is what people see when they're on the iPod typically, right?
Correct. So
Okay.
The course is designed to be seen on an iPad or on any desktop or laptop screen. And actually, that's a really good point. I should talk about the audience a little bit. So the people that are viewing this course are either current patients of Jefferson or patients or people who might be supporting a patient who's going through this process and just want to be informed on, what colon cancer is about. So where we used Cenario was on our experience of visit portion. So this is a choose your own adventure. We're providing our learners with two options as to, depending on where they're going to get screened. And we made a conscious decision here. So we wanted our learners to have as much control over the experience themselves. So whether someone has had this procedure before or whether they were totally new and weren't sure what to expect, we wanted people to have the freedom to choose the area of interest to them. So I'm going to go to the exam room. And you can see this integrates seamlessly with the rest of the course build. But what's actually happening here is the web VR experience is available through a web object. But our learners just see this as one seamless course. So we're providing them with some initial instruction. And you'll see the instructions throughout all the rooms. One of the requirements that was very important to us was that we remove as much friction as possible. So WebVR was very attractive to us because we didn't necessarily have the budget to provide custom headsets to all of our learners, but we also didn't want there to be any unnecessary barriers. So we wanted people to be able to experience this course regardless of the technology that was available to them. So what we did was we took a consumer level device. We took a Theta camera, so a device that costs roughly around $100, and we just scheduled a time to go into the clinic when it would be empty and of course clean. And we just built in hotspots where if you click on it, it'll just reveal more information about that space. Now, where this information comes from, it comes from the information that our SME shared and other clinical staff members shared around what are some common questions that people often ask. So this is straight from their frequently asked questions. And I'm lingering over this space in particular because when we showed it to people, it was sort of surprising. Many people who've had this procedure before, they're knocked out for this portion of the course. So they were very fascinated by being able to just look through the space. So once they're done, they can go into any other area. And again, it's a pretty straightforward experience, and that is intentional. What we want it to do is give people the option to go directly to the areas of interest to them. So we cover, all of the administrative details as well as details around their recovery, what to expect. If you have someone with you, what might be some helpful information for that guest or caretaker to know about the experience. And then lastly, if the learner wants to, we wanted to provide a private experience where they can get all of their questions answered. So I'm not going to play the entire video here, but we basically do a first-person walkthrough of all of the questions that an individual might be uncomfortable to ask in a live setting, or they might not think of on the spot. So you'll notice that we broke out 4 rooms, and we could have, in the original iteration of this course, we did actually stitch the rooms together, but in A/B testing, we found better response by allowing the learners to go wherever they want, where greater control. So at the end of every experience, it's totally optional, but we include just a little prompt of, you know, are you ready to leave the tour or not? I do want to take a minute to speak to the results from this course. So let me just exit out of here.
That's right. I remember the results were pretty powerful, as I remember sharing these with, these were unbelievable.
So one of the things we weren't expecting, so we wanted to measure anxiety levels, because it's one thing to have, you know, really cool technology and provide this guided tour experience, a personalized experience for people. But there were some 3 surprising findings from our initial study with patients. So 57% of our participants found the module to be extremely helpful. And that's in addition to 14% more found the module to be very helpful. Again, this is going from when we tested initially in our pre-test, our participants were saying that they were very concerned, that it was an uncomfortable topic, that you know, there was just a lot of anxiety associated with this experience in particular. 71% of our participants agreed with the statement that they felt that they had sufficient knowledge about the procedure, and that's a 19% increase over the findings on our initial pre-survey. And then probably the most surprising finding was 86% of our participants said that they wanted to see this module done for other conditions. So it's you know, on the surface, this is really just a guided tour room by room on what to expect as part of an overall learning strategy. But what we found was this component in particular was very powerful at lessening our learners' anxiety. So the next step for us with these initial findings, we are going to expand our study, and we're hoping that we can actually see a dramatic increase in people following through on these experiences. So Jefferson is planning to expand. So that would be the next step for us. And if I could encourage anyone out there who is you know, on a tight budget, or perhaps you don't have the luxury of a team to support you, this entire experience was created in one day. So amazing. Not the overall course, but the web VR portion, just one day, 8 hours of work. And that includes stitching the images, creating the hotspots, and of course, tracking where people are going on the back end.
That's amazing. All right, awesome. Thank you so much. I love that study. It just, it's pretty amazing how.
There was a question about which camera you used.
Oh,
you
yes.
mentioned it, but if you could say which camera you used for the filming.
I used a Theta cam.
Okay.
A Theta 360 camera. So just any $100 device that anyone can get.
All right, awesome. So I guess, Chris, are you ready to be on deck?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Hi, everybody. My name is, I have to put Chris on it because for many of you dealing with IT, they see the name Chris and they go automatically Mr. So, but I prefer to be called Chris Paxton McMillan. A little bit about myself is that, if I can get this going, I am the VP of Content Development Services for D3 Training Solutions here in the US. In Canada, it's basically you achieve, but I'm also, so my voice may be a little familiar, I am a Trivantis certified course mill, with tour fundamentals and intermediate facilitator or instructor, teaching primarily using online, but sometimes doing the face-to-face for interactive advantage. So if we haven't had you in class, we'd like to. I am also, and this is where my challenge comes through, is I'm an adjunct business and IT professor at a local community college. And for those who may or may not be aware of Oklahoma in general, just a background with Tulsa Community College, we are definitely a commuter college. We actually have over 25,000 students, with about 10% of those being international students. Those who are born and raised in Oklahoma have learned from a small child what to do in a tornado. Those in international, many of them obviously do not, because it's not something that they have experienced. We do have 4 campuses along with some satellite campuses around, and the college actually has drills once a year. They have an unannounced drills, and then of course they have the announced drills. But the challenge came through, whoops, let's get this going, is that for myself, I teach 2 to 3 classes each semester, and I have about 40 students per class, 3 hours a week for the students, so that's 120 students a year. And when I surveyed them, it came out that an average of 2 students per class had actually ever even participated in one of our drills at any of the 4 main campuses. For myself, I've actually been teaching with the college for over 20 years, and I've only experienced the drill once. Never really thought that was that big of a deal, and really kind of wanted to use this because, as it says on here, I wanted to personally master CenarioVR. It is a great tool out there, and for me to learn it, I have to actually get in there and use it. So what got us started thinking about this was with those tornado drills, it has become, in education in Oklahoma, it is a huge discussion, because if you can see from the slide there, I'm not going to go over it at all, Oklahoma, we do not have the most tornadoes. Actually, Florida has the most. We have an average of about 60 per year, but ours are much larger. In fact, let's see, wait, so I'm going on a little back and forth here. Luckily, in the last 4 years, I have been in the same campus in the same year, so that made this a little bit easier. And the challenge, though, was to create this video partially when no one's around, because since it is a commuter college, we have weekend classes, they have night classes, and I really didn't want to get signatures of everyone that I would get in the shot. So this was originally shot over Christmas break. And I realized one of the challenges when I went to go put it together is I did not use a tripod. So the view would be great for a small child, but not for an adult. So note to self, use a tripod. The other is that I needed to understand the emergency policies and procedures, because I knew where I needed to go, but I need to put this together and let the students understand what's correct. And I wanted to make it engaging for my students. I also wanted to be able to put it into Blackboard to get them student credit. So this can be viewed either by a standalone, which is where the university or college is actually thinking of taking it, but I also want to put it within Blackboard so I can see that they actually took it and also get their input as to what they think. It is currently being reviewed by the Tulsa Community College Police Department and the Emergency Operations Manager. As of yesterday morning, they were asking me, could I do this at all 4 campus? And I'm like, I can sure teach you guys how to do it and set it up and guide them. I don't know that I can build it all myself, but as far as filming, it took me probably 30, 40 minutes to film once I found some time and, getting the people, making sure no one was in the view. I actually used a Samsung 360 gear camera, and then I used my Samsung phone so I wouldn't be actually in the shot, and again a tripod, which was very important. The other thing I would stress is I ended up taking I think 9 or 10 videos. Making sure you number them once you get into CenarioVR would make it run much smoother, because some of the views it was like, wait a minute, where do I go next? So, but what we're going to look at next is the actual course. And I don't know, let me turn up my volume a moment. So it starts out here in the classroom. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but it does have my PC speakers going on. And hang on, I think I can actually share it.
I can hear it a little bit.
Okay.
It's light, though.
Okay.
No, that's okay, though.
Let's see. So announcement comes on saying a severe storm's come along, you need to evacuate, that kind of thing. I'm going to turn it down. And that is actually playing throughout the entire course. So they start this, and this is my classroom, and they can look around and answer. I kind of wanted to make it a little fun. So yes, ignore the alarm. We'll tell you if it's real or not. hide under your desk. That's kind of what we used to do in elementary schools. And then, you know, that way you can still listen to the instructor, because of course, listening to us is very important. Over on the far side, I need to probably move this announcement, actually is the emergency announcement as to what they need to do if there is a shooter on campus, because unfortunately that is part of life. If there is a tornado, if there's, we now actually have earthquakes, and I can't remember what the other warning is. So it pops up into here's what we need to do. And then they can come back and it asks them the questions. Do you hide under your desk? No. Ignore, continue class? No. Or we can exit the room. And again, just to reiterate that, yes, that is correct. And going throughout this whole thing, the audio is playing because it would be continuing to play during a tornado evacuation. So where do you go? Okay. Well, I could choose to sit here and enjoy the beautiful windows because people do sit there and do that, or I could go into this next building. And I just kind of wanted to say, you know, on here that, you know, this is great places. More than anything, just to kind of get the students to take advantage of the property. I figure if they're looking at it, hopefully they'll remember it better. And we'll quickly go through this. So we've exited the classroom. We're in the common area. Where do we go? Well, again, I can get snacks and watch the tornado, which we hear a lot of people talk about doing. We could go to another building. We shouldn't do that. We've got a police officer sitting over in the corner here. We could go to the library, which is a great place, but not during the tornado. And this was something that I learned too, and I've always kind of wondered about. You do take the stairs down to the first floor. Well, if you are in wheelchair or crutches, what do you need to do? Well, you wait there and a police officer or fire person evacuates them. They continue down. Should I look where I'm going? We'll say no, just use the handrail. Or yes, and it says yes, always use the handrail. And then we now get to the first floor. One of the things kids learn often is, you know, yes, maybe you can hide under the stairwell, obviously not in this kind of situation. So it might be a good option, but not here. Again, I can look out the windows, but what I really need to do is continue seeking shelter and follow the classmates and campus personnel. I have a choice. This basically says, nope, that's just where you came from. And then so now we get into the interior portion of the campus. Okay, so we're getting much closer. What do you need to do? Well, could I seek shelter here? So let me say yes. And we would let them know, and this happens quite a bit. They would say, why not? And it's like, well, because there's still glass. So you need to keep going further. So continue. And we get to the end where it says you've now reached the lowest portion, most interior. You can go to the men's room or the women's room. It doesn't matter which one. We do have a lot of students that ask that, well, which one do I go to? It doesn't matter, just go. And they've now participated in the virtual tornado drill. Very short and sweet. As far as once it was built, it actually took me probably about 2 hours, maybe 3, to actually build this and run through it a couple times to get everything going. So it was a very easy project relatively to do, especially for, again, just one person. So
awesome. Well, thank
it.
you so much, Chris. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Cindy.
All right, thank you very much. Let me share this. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to share with you how we're using CenarioVR in a different way. I am Cindy Ogden, owner of Fuel It. We are a training solutions company based in Memphis, Tennessee. And I have been in instructional design for 25 plus years, working with a variety of different companies, small and large. I created my first VR project in 2017, and these are some of the companies we've worked with in building a variety of different topics. Let's see. Okay, so the sample that I'm going to show you today is we were working with a manufacturer of pest control products. They actually build the materials that are needed to keep birds away from public areas where you don't want them, like, I don't know, a patio restaurant, for example. And so what they do is they offer free classroom training to pest control companies who purchase their products and then install them. And the challenge has been that they work with pest control companies all over the country, and sales positions are notorious for high turnover. And so they found it with their small staff very difficult to reach and consistently provide sales classroom training. And so they needed something that would be a supplement to that classroom training and put people into a real environment. And so they would really learn how to assess the situation and determine the right products to use. As we all know, if we've worked with sales people before, they're very time conscious. So you have to get right to the point, grab their attention. It has to be highly engaging. The other challenge that we had is that the pest control industry as a whole is very mature and slow to adopt to new technology. And so we knew we needed to ease into this and not just say, hey, we're going to do VR and everybody get headsets. So,
Cindy, is it possible to go full screen by any chance? Just because I had somebody chat me say they're having a little trouble seeing. Yeah, I think that's a little better. Yeah, I think.
No, it's moved to the wrong
one. Yeah. Okay.
Stop share. Hold on.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay.
I just want to make sure that it's easy for the viewers to see because I think she's having some trouble. Oh yeah, beautiful. Okay.
Okay, let me move it back to where I was.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Brilliant.
All right. It is not cooperating though. Okay. Now we're back. Everybody's back.
Yay, thank you.
Awesome. That's what happens when you have dual monitors. Okay.
Yes, of course.
So our objectives for this training, we knew that we needed to teach the salespeople how to select the right product solution for the customer's bird issues. We had to help them identify what were the buying motivations for that customer that would help build urgency, and then how to close the sale. So there's a portion of just standard sales training that goes along with it, in addition to how do I assess what's the right product to use. So the solution that we came up with, we wanted to build an immersive VR experience that put the sales reps in a client's area, a client location, and also learn the fundamentals of sales that would supplement what they've learned in a classroom. And we also didn't want to scare the pest control buyers by saying, oh, you've got to buy all of this hardware. What we have presented with them is you can use this on any tablet, desktop, smartphone. You're already issuing these devices to your sales and technicians. And so just use the equipment that you already have. The other great thing is that it plugs into your LMS, and so you have tracking to see how your employees score as they go through the training. So what we've created, we've just recently launched 2 modules. We're working on the 3rd. And the first one teaches the sales reps how to go to a property, look around. The second one is more about the sales process and how you close a sale. And the 3rd project that we're working on is 4 different environments that the sales reps have to go into and identify what are the different products that would be used. So let me show you quick. Oh, let me. There we go. Maybe back over.
Yay, there it is. Awesome. I
There it
love
is.
this one, by the way, because since I work closely with our sales team, I could always relate to these types of scenarios. I think these are great. All right, Cindy, how's your audio? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Perfect. Okay, got it.
Can you hear
Yes.
me now?
Yes, I can.
Nope.
Perfect. All right, now, yes. Now I think I lost your audio again.
Okay, so that audio is stopped on this player. Could you hear that okay?
Yeah, I can't hear it. I hear you, and for a moment, like it will go out, but I think it's just also part of Zoom. Like if you're playing a scenario for the purpose of the presentation, sometimes it will override sound, but that's okay. If you even just show us and talk through it, I think that will be great. Yeah.
Right, perfect. So one of the things I want to point out is in the very intro of this, we have a standard introduction that we have on the front end of all of our courses, because most users are looking at it on a tablet or a PC. They don't realize that you can actually navigate and look around. And so we have a standard intro that we say, take a look around literally. This is 360 degrees, just to get the users used to being able to look around.
Right, yeah.
We put in points of interest, you know, here's your sales process, tip number 1, and we'll move on to the next. There's more audio here.
Right. So we can't hear him speaking, but it looks like he's pitching something to the customer.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can't hear his audio at all?
No.
No, there's a way to share computer audio within Zoom. I don't know if you're able to select that on there.
Oh, I don't know if I am or not.
All right.
That's okay. But
Yeah,
we can.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. No, it's still really cool to see this.
Perfect. So this is available also, again, because this is free training that the company offers to their clients. It is available for anyone who is logged into this session. I can send you, Christy, the link. So if you want to share that and people want to take a look at the whole program,
that's a
they
cool
can log
idea.
in and check it out.
All right. Yeah.
Perfect. And like I said, that's what we're working on. The third module will be an interactive test, if you will, just to make sure that they're able to assess properties and identify what's the right product to use in each situation.
Awesome. All right. Well, cool. John, do you want to, we do find that a lot of clients are using this for sales training, and a lot of clients have found it to be very effective. But I'm going to turn it over to John because he has some awesome updates in CenarioVR that he's going to show.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Blackmon. I am a co-founder and CTO here at Trivantis. And so we're going to look at a few of the new features here at CVR. I'm not going to really cover the basics of creating. I just want to go over a few new things like spatial audio, animations, effects, variables, and the updated timeline. So today we're going to look at these in the context of a production floor scenario. So this is not an uncomfortable situation. This is looking at a brewery producing beer. So something easy to talk about. But we're going to look at where the viewer needs to react to an alarm going off on the plant floor. So we're actually going to immerse them into the scenario, have the alarm go off, and see how they react to it and what they do. So just two scenes. It's a small example, just so we can kind of show these new things. The first scene is just the floor itself, kind of all on the floor, and then we have a close-up of the panel. This is a panel where we're going to have them actually have to deal with the situation at hand. So let's put it in run mode first. We're just going to look to see what it looks like when we put it in run mode. Kind of look at the scenes. So we'll put a preview here. Then we can go up and look at the panel. Here's the panel itself. You'll note right now there's no alarm going on because we've jumped right to it. I actually have a timer, so you have to be in the other scene looking around for a little while. It's 3.8 seconds I put it on there. So if let's say I'm looking around and I'm looking around the rest of the room and I could have interactive elements, and then the alarm goes off, and I believe that's coming through. Should be coming through because I'm showing computer sound. And so I look back at spatial sound, so I actually know which way to turn because it's telling me, for my ears, I can hear which way it is. I look and I see the alarm going off here, and we have a little blinking light there. So I go up to the panel, and I go in. The alarm is going off. Notice the volume is down a little bit. I've turned it down because I have to talk over it. But in the actual experience, I would have it full volume. It'd be blasting in the user just like it would in a real life scenario. So I give them some distractors. So I have things like them hitting the emergency stop, and if they do, I tell them, no. they'll ruin the entire batch. Probably don't want to do that. I give them distractors on other things, and I say, that's not even a button. You just pressed on a light. Doesn't really work. So, but if they actually press on that, they'll actually turn off the alarm. Okay, they've cleared the alarm. What is the problem? And so they're supposed to examine the panel and determine what problem. And the problem, we don't really let them get it wrong. If they click on a wrong one, we give them a big wrong no on that. But the right one is, hey, the temperature is incorrect. Okay, so we give them that temperature is incorrect. We then give them, okay, what are they supposed to do? What should it be? And again, we're not going to let them get it wrong. We're going to let them click on 75, and if they get it right, then they get it right, and we give them a great old attaboy, adjust the temperature, and then we allow them to, go back down at this point. And now when we go back down, the alarm won't go off again. We've already had the alarm, and they also get the exit button, which wasn't there before. Now we have a way to get out of the experience, and they can click on the exit button, and it takes them out of the experience. Okay, so, let's look at how we created that. What are the different techniques we use to create that in CenarioVR? So the first thing is a variable. So we have a variable, we called it alarm, so it's pretty obvious. We set its initial value 0, meaning the alarm hasn't gone off yet. So this is what we're going to use to know that the alarm has gone off at that point. So we have an alarm initial value 0. As you can probably guess, I'm going to set it to 1 once the alarm goes off. The alarm you'll see is right here. It's an audio element, but fairly new to CenarioVR is it's a spatial audio element. So I do that by just selecting this spatial right here. And that spatial is done by selecting here. It'll actually get a representation on the screen. So once I set it to spatial, I can also set a volume on it. I can preview what it'll sound like over here. All that for audio. That's all fairly new for audio. So now when the user is in their environment, if they have either a stereo headset on on the PC, or just to speak stereo speakers on the PC, or inside a VR headset, wherever they are, they will spatially hear the sound from either direction, and it'll give them an indication of which way to turn. Very helpful for a situation like this where they have to identify where the alarm is going off. And so now the blinking, so when you saw the alarm go off, we actually had the alarm blinking on there. Now I could have filmed that alarm going off, and that probably would have been the preferable way, but I didn't. I only had this picture when I was there. And so I had to kind of do it on my own. I had to kind of roll my own. So I did it through timed actions. So we use the timeline down here. The timeline, is this down here. You create actions by clicking on this add your timed action event right there. And we have a way to view them one at a time here. So the first thing happens at 3.8 seconds. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just skip all this other stuff if the alarm has already gone off. So I do a jump to scene time. So even on an image scene, I have scene time, so I can have things happen at different times. So I jump to 5 seconds. I jump past all this if the alarm is equal to 1. So that's how, if I'm coming back into the scene, the alarm's already gone off, I'm not going to go through this whole alarm set scenario again. So first thing I do is I play the alarm sound. I go in and play the alarm sound, and then I show the red light, and then I set the alarm to 1. So this is where I modify that variable alarm, and I set it to 1. So that means, okay, I'm playing the alarm now, I'm showing the red light, and I'm making that really annoying sound. So then I go through and I have a few events to kind of show what's happening. So the first event, I double click that. The first event is to show the red light again for a small bit. And then just a little bit later, a half second later, we actually hide the red light. And that gives the blink because the next action I have is to jump to scene time back, and that'll continually show and hide the red light. So that's how I get that blinking red light on there.
Oh, okay.
That red light.
Yes.
Kind of a cool way to do it. Things you can do with a timeline. You can do all kinds of fun stuff there with the timeline. Last thing I wanted to show on this scene is the exit button. When we first came in, it was not there because we didn't want the student to leave the scenario before they'd done the thing. So I use that on the on-show actions for a scene. So on the scene, as soon as you enter into a scene, you can do things. So that exit button was initially hidden, wasn't showing originally, but as soon as the scene shows, I will show that exit button, but I'll only do it, I'll look at 2 different conditions. If alarm is equal to 1, meaning the alarm has gone off, and they have hit the alarm clear button. So they can't just set off the alarm and then go running out. They have
they have to fix it.
Yeah, they have to fix the problem first, and then we'll let them get out. So we're going to make them stay in here until they figure out a way to get out. So we've got that here on there. So let's go ahead and look at the next scene. The next scene is that panel close-up in which we had that action. So again, we have spatial audio. So the spatial audio is here. And I set that volume down to 1 just so I was able to talk over it while we were looking, but I would normally have that all the way up for if I was to have a student go through it, because again, that's what it would be like. It changes the student's environment. If you have a very loud, very annoying alarm, which that alarm is, it definitely change how you react to things and how quickly you can react to questions as you go through, because that alarm is going off in your ear the entire time. Again, we have another timing loop again, because remember that light was blinking again, but it's a little bit different this time. So in the other one, we used a show action because we were showing and hiding an image. In this one, it's actually a button. So we have a button in there, and I want the student to be able to click on that to clear it. So instead of showing and hiding it, I actually animate it. So when you animate something, you have a lot of options on what you can animate. In this case, you can animate things spinning, growing, you can add tooltip, circle, lots of crazy things you can do with animation. But I animate the opacity between 0 and 100%. So it looks like it's blinking, but it's always present. So it can be clicked even when it's not visible, right? So that allows me to have that. And again, I do it only if they haven't already cleared the alarm. I'm not going to animate it once the alarm has been cleared. So I'm animating that button on a small loop here. So 0.6 seconds in, I animate it to 100%, and then that same jump to scene time where I go back to 0. And we just go through this little loop of animating that button, but we just put conditions on it pretty quickly there. So some other things that were kind of interesting in here was the distractor button. If you noticed, I don't have an icon over it. It's because I want the student to I want him to look around. I want him to feel his way around, see what he can hit, see what he can't hit. I don't want to give him too many contextual clues. But when he gets there, I do want him to actually know it is something he can select. So when he gets over to this, he'll have something. So how do we do that? It's not with a transparency. I actually don't do that with some other action. So I have a stop button here, and its image is a glow. It's actually a glowing thing here, a small glowing image. It's a semi-transparent PNG, but I give it an effect. I started out with an opacity of 0. So again, I can do effects very similar to our animations I can do on here. So I set it up so that button is there, but initially you can see right through it. It has full transparency. But if I go to its actions, on its hover in, normally when you hover inside of a hotspot, its default action is to grow. So you hover over it, you get a little grow. In this case, I don't use that grow. I've replaced it with an opacity. So again, any of those things I could do, I could have it spin, do all kinds of things. But in this case, when you hover over it, I set its opacity to 100% so you can see it. So this is a way to lay it out without so many contextual clues, but making it obvious to the user what they need to select. And then on hover out, when things hover back out, we animate it back to default. Default for anything is the action plus all of its effects. So whatever you set as an effect is considered the default for that hotspot. So you can animate back to the default. And that's how we get that glow to happen. And I use that over several areas. We use the glow here, we use the glow here, and we use the glow here. We also use the glow over on here on the alarm clear button. So this is another interesting way to do it. On the alarm clear button, when we went into run mode, when we went over it, you did see the light itself was blinking, but it also had a glow. Now, how did we do that? How do we get two things to kind of happen there at the same time? Well, the alarm clear has it's right, big red light. It's actually really small. I'm not sure why it's called big red light, but it's a very small light that goes on there. And when you hover over him, he animates a different object. Now, this is something you can do. So on your hover in, you can actually do something. You can actually do multiple things to different objects. So he actually animates the alarm button glow. Now, the alarm button glow is right over top of that alarm button, but we animate that to 100% opacity. So you see the glow and you still see it blinking. So you actually get both effects at the same time. Something you can do to make some kind of neater interactions in there, give them some more contextual clues as to what they should be doing. And again, on hover out, he animates the alarm button glow back to default. So on hover and hover out, you can actually do those two things. Selecting him hides a bunch of things. So you hide the alarm button. Once they've cleared the button, you're good to go. You stop the alarm sound. Thank the Lord. We jump to scene time, so we're all done with that. We show some questions, pan to the questions, and also hide the glow. So we actually set the thing up, and now we show them the questions. After that, the questions are pretty much work in the way that questions normally do. One more thing I wanted to show here, kind of a cool thing that we do here as well, is if you'll notice once we answered the questions, we didn't do things right away when the student answered them. We want to actually play the sound, give them an idea of it happening after a small pause. So we actually have sounds on here, the correct sound. This is the ding sound that you heard. So if we bring up that correct sound, you'll hear it's the ding sound that we played. And we actually do things when that sound is done. So what we do, the action actually on answering the question is to play the correct sound, and then we actually have the action that happens from answering the question at the end of the sound. So it gives it a small pause. It allows them to hear the entire sound that you want them to hear before it moves on. So that's another common technique, is to do things on the done of an audio rather than the actual click, so that gives that student that little time to pause on that. All right, so that was a lot of material in a really short time, and but you see, it gives you an idea of, if you utilize some of the new features of CenarioVR, you can really create a much more immersive scenario that really engages the user and gives them a feeling of really being there. So
That's
thank you
super
very much.
cool. Yeah, super cool. That's in a brewery, right?
Yeah, it's in a brewery, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Thank you, John. That's awesome. I know we're just about out of time. I'm trying to see if there's any questions that we didn't answer. And is Jeff Gordon, are you still on by any chance? So I think somebody had a question for you about how you overlaid images of the organs and like how you did that.
Yeah, it's actually fairly straightforward. It works just like it does in Lectora. Every object is on its own layer. The lower down you go, the closer to you it gets. The biggest problem we did was finding the right images. So we had to look for those. We had a license with Getty Images, so we were able to get them from there. But most of them did not have a transparent background. So the next process was to put them all into Photoshop, transparent the background so that all you had was the image, and then lay it in exactly where you wanted it to be. And you could size it and move it around once it was in CenarioVR.
That's very cool. Awesome. Awesome. And I know, I think somebody might have asked just in general how we make things in CenarioVR compliant or 508, Section 508 compliant. At this time, John, and maybe this is a better question for you, I don't think we can. I don't think we're quite there yet for these types of VR apps.
What was the question? What was?
Somebody asked about Section 508. What about 508 compliance in these apps?
Right. So VR, by its very nature, is not 508 compliant. So a visually impaired person probably will not ever put on a VR headset. So if you'll be using this in a course that is 508 compliant, much like things that are just very interactive, you'll need to provide something that is 508 compliant. But VR by itself is not 508 compliant.
Right, that's what I thought too. Okay, cool. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions
There's
here.
one in the question section.
Yeah, yes.
It says, what lessons have you learned in evaluating training outcomes with these VR trainings when compared to in-person or traditional web-based training? So I could answer that on certain, just using some studies done on the web. But I'd be interested in, like Maria, I know you had some good hard numbers on your things. Did you have any of those in comparison to traditional training for it?
Not for this experience. So that's one of the things we want to expand into with the larger study. We're looking at having 500 to 600 patient participants go through and be able to collect a better sample. So that's where we are today. Unfortunately, I don't have anything else to compare it to that relates to this course.
Right. If you look around some quick looking on the web, you can certainly find a lot of studies that show that the VR training gives you much better retention rates, much better stickiness, things like that. But I don't know if I think these are all of these were done initially in VR, so we don't have the comparison between the two. And
we do have support now for Oculus Quest, right, John? Or it's in the process of coming.
Yeah, we have Oculus Quest. We can. I actually might just post it on the floor. So Oculus with the Quest is not allowing enterprise applications on their store. So we've had support since the day it came out, but we cannot get it on their store. So I can send you the APK, and you have to sideload it yourself, and we can support the Quest without question. That's just the way they've determined. What they're doing is they're opening up their own enterprise store, and that opens in September. And when that is open, it'll be on the enterprise store. But in order to use the enterprise store, you'll have to buy an enterprise version of the Quest, which, by the way, costs 3 times as much and has a yearly fee associated with it. That is Oculus's choice. We have nothing to do with that. But yeah, so if you want to use the Quest, we absolutely have a way for you to use it. We use it here. That is what we demo with when we go to shows, because it's a very nice device. I like the Quest. So we do have a way for you to run on the Quest.
Awesome, awesome. And just to kind of throw it out there, because I had a question earlier in the session about the relationship between Lectora and CenarioVR. Well, they're sister products. They work beautifully together, both owned by Trivantis. And by the way, if you've never used CenarioVR before, just go to CenarioVR.com, scenario with a CENARIO. VR.com, and there's a free trial, so you can have fun with that. And awesome questions and lots of great feedback here from everyone, which is really nice. And I think we might be able to share at least a couple of examples, like of these links. I'll just talk to the speakers about it. I know that Cindy's willing to share hers, and we can certainly pull that together. But also just wanted to let you know before we wrap up, unless we have other questions, our next date is August 21st. I forgot to write August 21st, of course, on my slide. Whoops. How to Personalize Learning Without Artificial Intelligence. It's an adaptive course design and Lectora little presentation by Dominic Kaloya. One of our Lectora experts from Johnson Controls. So also, if you guys ever want to present or have a webinar idea that you're dying to see, please feel free to email us at team@trivantis.com. I always love hearing ideas. And yeah, so thank you so much again. And I will get this pulled together in an email for everybody and send out the email to you all tomorrow so you can refer back to it. Thank you. All right. Well, I guess I'll sign off. I don't see any other questions. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will talk to you again soon. Thanks again for joining.